Hey, what's up guys? This is Dan or CrazyBadCuber, and today I'm going to show you how you can do a modification to your VCube 3 to make it turn and cut corners a whole lot better. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your cube apart, of course, just like this. And it's a lot of times it's easier said than done because my caps did not come off very easy at all. In fact, you could see that some of them actually broke and broke into quite a few small little parts, which I'm probably going to have to super glue back on when I'm done. So what I've already pre-done is taken this apart and applied Lubix to the core and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to know how to do that, you can watch a tutorial on my page called How to Assemble and Lubix a Dayan Guhong, and it'll tell you exactly how I did it. So how I got the caps off, because they seemed glued on there, was I took nail polish remover and put it in a little dish, and I just set it on top. So this part was sitting inside the dish of nail polish. The only problem with doing that though is you can see that it did eat away at the plastic a little bit, but I'm not too concerned about that at this point, to be honest. So I'm not exactly sure the exact type of mod I'm going to do. I'm really going to look over the pieces and see what I can do. So this is pretty brand new for me. So I'm just going to start inventing a mod right in front of you. So some of the tools I have is I have a pair of scissors so I can cut the sandpaper. And here is the sandpaper. I've got 3 different grades. I got 180, 400, and 600. I've got some instant crazy glue so I can put those caps back on. 1 standard drumstick so I can maybe wrap some sandpaper around it and kind of use it to file things. A standard screwdriver in case I need it. And I've got epoxy sculpt in case something goes bad and I have to rebuild. Or maybe I just have to build to make it better. We'll see. Alright, so everybody's heard the rumor that this resembles a Guhong. A lot of people say that a Guhong resembles this, but either way, we're going to take a look at the differences between this and an actual Guhong piece and see the differences on why the V-Cube does not act as good as a Guhong. And I can see already that right here, you can see how round that is inside there. It's actually really round, whereas this one is very, very sharp. You can see how sharp that is compared to that. So we might try to round this off a little bit. So on the corner stock, which I can see on the right here, you can see that's got this little dip in here. And maybe that helps with corner cutting, and we know that this one doesn't, so we're going to create a little dip in there as well. And I think while I'm at it, I'm going to really round off the ends of these and not make it so sharp and pointy all over the place. So I'm going to round that off and see if that will help at all. So here we have the core of the Guhong as well, and I'm going to take a look. You can see in this section of it right here, it's kind of rounded off. As you can see, it kind of tapers down a little bit, where on the V-Cube, it kind of goes this way and then a jagged edge down. It doesn't really taper off, and it's not really round in this section down here. So we're going to try to round all of that off as well and see what kind of result we get. So what I've done is I have cut a piece of sandpaper, and I'm going to wrap it around this drumstick. So we've got a nice little handle here. So from this point, I'm going to sand down right there. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to sand a little piece out and see what happens here. Alright, as you can see, I have now sanded that out, so it no longer is sharp like this, but it sort of resembles a Guhong a little bit more than it already does. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on all the edges on every single corner piece. Alright, now I'm going to show you guys how I do the ends. So basically this little scoop that's in there, I put that right on top of this, and I just go back and forth a little bit. And I do that on every side. Now what I do is I line up it in that scoop and then on top of the next piece right here to kind of just take off that sharp edge on top. And now you can see that sharp edge is gone. So I do that on all sides. Now what I do is I want to get rid of the sharp ends of these points. As you can see, it's pointy like that. So I just take this, just round it off a little bit. Do that on every side. Now I want to do the same thing on the top of this lip right here. See, now as you can see, everything is nicely rounded off, and we've got all these little scoops in here, and that will look just like a Guhong. Alright, so here's the finished V-cube piece. So I rounded all these pieces off. I didn't do anything to the corner stock because I can see that on a Guhong, the corner stock is exactly the same. So I didn't do anything there, but as you can see, I did scoop those out so they're no longer square and they resemble a Guhong better. So I'm hoping that's going to help with corner cutting and reverse corner cutting. We'll see about that. Now we're going to move on to the edge pieces. As you can see here, we have a V-cube 3 edge piece, and like I said earlier, it's not so round here like a Guhong is. As you can see in a Guhong, the Guhong is much more rounded in there. It's got this little shallow dip in there, and this one doesn't. And as you can see from a side view, this kind of it goes up and it's kind of smooth here, where on the V-cube it's just very jagged. So we're going to shave that off. Now I already did one, so I can show you what I'm talking about. So here you can see that I've shaved off that bump, so it's not quite so sharp, and I've done the same here. And here I've scooped this out, so now you can really see the difference on the side of the edge pieces. And what that is that's hopefully going to allow it to reverse corner cut and act a little bit more smoothly than it is. I did scuff it up quite a bit with the sandpaper, as you can see, and it's a little bit raw and rough, but I'm going to take some 600 grit and I'm going to finish that off again, and I might even spray paint it so it looks nice again. We'll see in the end. Okay, for this edge piece mod, what we're going to do is take the sandpaper. I'm using 180 grit sandpaper for this, and you want a square tool this time. So I don't have professional tools, so I'm just using the square end of this this screwdriver here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend this around, and I'm going to continue to do that until I've got a shape, just like this. Now I'm going to hold it like that so I can use this section here. And just let me zoom in here really quick. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this piece like this, and I'm going to file that down right there by holding this against it at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to start shaving it down. Take a look at the progress. I need a little bit more yet. You can just use your eyeball. You don't have to go exactly how I'm doing it, but I'm making it so it's pretty close to an actual Guhong. And so we're going to go a little bit further. So now you can see that it is quite, like not so sharp there like it is on this side. And but now you've got these sharp edges along here. So what you want to do is just take your sandpaper and kind of round those off a little bit. Just like that. And now we're going to do the same to this side here. So turn it over and do exactly the same thing. So now we just round it off a little bit. So again, as you can see, now we've got these two edges, one here and one there, that are more like a Guhong, and hopefully, like I said, that's going to stop the lockups, and we can reverse corner cut a little bit. So now I'm going to get rid of this section. So I do basically the same thing, and I hold this sideways, and I kind of hold it against that part right on top at an angle that makes it even spacing in between. So like this is extreme, that's extreme, so go halfway in between, and then you can start sanding from there. And just sand down a little bit. You don't need to go too much on here. Just get rid of that bridge, and then kind of round it off like this. And then sort of, just move it around and round the pieces off a little bit as you can. And of course, like I said, you're going to start scuffing up the actual plastic of the QB, but that's fine. But now you can see that is much better. That is much more round. And hopefully we can sort of get that stealth feel to the cube instead of that blocky feel. So now you just go ahead and do it on the other side, exactly the same thing, and then proceed with the rest of your edge pieces. And I'll see you when I'm done. While modding these things, I just kind of had an epiphany of how I could make it even a little bit better, because I was looking at the Zanshi, and it's the same as the Guhong where these little holes are right here. And so I was looking at my cube, at the pieces that I had made, and so let's find a piece and an edge piece. And take a look, if we put them together like this, now let me zoom in a little bit, you can see that only this side has that dip, not this side. So then I took a piece of an actual Guhong and took a look at that. So here's the actual Guhong piece, and as you can see, they are both carved in like this. So I took even a closer look at this piece right here. I wanted to see exactly how that is. So I made my scoop on my V-cube just like this, but then on there, I think the scoop went all the way through and took part of that corner off. So what I'm gonna have to do is do that on my cubes. So again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my sandpaper that I put on the end of the screwdriver, and I'm just gonna take the corner of this and kind of put it on there. And I'm gonna angle it like that so it'll be flat. And I'm just gonna sandpaper it a little bit and see what happens. Okay, and sure enough, there we go. So now I'm just gonna round that off a little bit. I'm gonna round it off on this end to make it so it's not sharp. So now you can see when I put them together, it really does create that round piece in there. So we'll kind of have that empty diamond space in between, and hopefully that is gonna really help with reverse corner cutting. All right, so I'm done with my last edge piece, and now I'm looking at the core, and I'm thinking I shouldn't probably do anything to the core because of the way these pieces sit in. You can see that it kind of needs those pieces to grip it, and I don't really want to take away from that and maybe make it too loose so the cube will pop even more. So I'm going to leave the core the way it is, but I was taking a look at the corner pieces again, and now that I shaved off these pieces here to make it more round, I can see that my scoop is kind of not so scooped. So I'm going to try to extend that to the end of this piece again and see if we can get that scoop to be a little bit better. There we go. Now you can see that the scoop goes all the way to the end. So I'm going to do that with all my pieces. And just so everybody knows, I glued in the center caps because they do come out. So you just take some of the crazy glue and you put it around the edge of the inside, and then you put the cap on, and that will work. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all the rest of my corner pieces. There, that's much better now. So I think what I'm going to do now is round off these edges here, because you can see that there's this lip, because I don't know why V-Cubes did this, but this cap that goes in there sits too far down. And that's probably just like a mathematical error that they just didn't catch. But I mean, after they've done the prototype, you think they would have done something about that lip, and that's probably why we're getting all these catching and locking up on the cubes. So I'm just going to sand that down, and we'll see if that will help. Okay, as you can see, I have sanded it down now. So now when I sanded it down as well, these edges became really sharp. So you kind of take your sandpaper and just kind of round off the edges a bit. But now that is actually feeling a whole lot smoother on all edges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all the rest of them. Okay, so now that I've got all my pieces done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a super fine grit sandpaper, 600 grit, and I am going to sand everything down even finer just to make it really smooth. All right, so now I've done my corner pieces and my edge pieces with fine 600 grit sandpaper, and they are very, very smooth. But as you can see, they don't look very nice at all. They're all roughed up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spray paint them using the same spray paint that I used for my barrel cube and my rainbow leaf cube. And I'm just going to make them look all nice and new again. And we'll see how good of a sanding job I did after that. All right, so I've got my pieces spray painted now. And as you can see, they look a little bit more shiny, but you can still see the little scratch marks. And I think, I don't know how to get rid of those personally. I'm not great at modding yet, so we will see how this all works. So here I'm going to do a piece comparison now, and as you can see, I've got the V-Cube one here on the right and the Guhong on the left, and you can see that I've scooped these out now, and it does look quite similar. So I'm really curious how this is going to end up turning out. And here are the finished edge pieces. Again, the V-Cube is on the right, and you can see I've rounded all that down over there, and I've rounded that bump down. So I'm going to assemble it now, and we will see how it all turned out. Okay, so this is the cube assembled now, and I gotta say that this is so much better already. It doesn't quite feel like it did before. It's not clunky, it's not catching. Middle slices are very, very nice. And yeah, so I did apply Lubix to it as well. I got my Lubix here. And so let's check out the corner cutting now. As you can see, I've got these little holes in here now, sort of like a Guhong does, and I gotta be honest, like this doesn't quite feel like a Guhong. It more feels like a Zanshi, to be honest. It definitely is way better though. Like, I'm really glad that I did this, and I'm glad that I filmed the process so you guys can do it if you want to. I know it's a lot of work in the cube. It kind of looks a little bit ugly, but we'll see what it looks like with stickers on it. Wow, this is actually really nice. Holy. Okay, so let's try the corner cutting, because that's really what this was all about. So I remember before the V-Cube could barely corner cut, maybe about that, and it would corner cut, and this is corner cutting very easily now. So let's try a little bit further. Here, no problems. Over more, no problems. Let's go line to line, and it can. Look at that, guys. Wow. Let's see if it'll cut 45 degrees. So let's go to 45 and cut. Oh yeah, no problem. And wow, this is really good. And just so you guys do know that this is the original one, and I'm not trying to play another joke on you guys or something like that. I'll take a piece out and you can see clearly that it says V-Cube on it. And this is the piece that I made. So if you make this cube using the tutorial I just gave you on how to do this, you'll have a really decent V-Cube actually. But I gotta say that when you do this modification, it's probably no longer a V-Cube. I would say that it is a Dayan cube, because I've shaped it as a Dayan cube. I've used the Dayan shape as a guide, and it's sort of what made this better. So I'm going to sticker it up, and then I'll come back and show you guys some more. All right, everybody, so it's been about an hour or so, and I've done a whole bunch of averages with this, and I'm averaging not quite the same I am with an actual Guhong or Zanshi, but just a few seconds like more. So it actually did turn out pretty well. As you can see, the cube is a little bit floppy, but I think that's just because of all the you know, the stuff I took away. But I think that you know, its corner cutting abilities are so good now that it totally helps with that. Like, it doesn't really affect, you know, doing algorithms or anything like that. So that's not a problem at all. And yeah, so like I showed you earlier, like the corner cutting now is really good, and it reverse corner cuts pretty well as well. Maybe not there. There we go. But yeah, so it's definitely improved quite a bit. It's quite a lot of work, you know, to do that, or you can just go out and buy a Guhong. Either way, but this thing is not quite comparable to a Dayan cube, but it is a lot better. So if you're looking to mod your V-Cube 3 and make it better so you can have a V-Cube 3 speed cube, and so go ahead and do the mod. It is quite a bit of work, but it does work out pretty well, and I've had not any problems with it so far. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.